Hello and welcome back to the Meeting Point English for another grammar lesson. And in today's lesson we are looking at adjectives and adverbs. But first of all, many people want to know what exactly is an adverb. Here is a definition. Adverbs are words that modify verbs, adjectives, other adverbs, or entire sentences. They provide additional information about how, when, or where something happens. Now that sounds very complicated, but believe me, it will not be complicated by the time we finished this video. So first of all, let's have a look at the difference between adjectives and adverbs. He is a careful driver. He drives carefully. So we have the adjective in grey here, careful. Careful describes driver, which is a noun. So he is a careful driver. That is adjective and noun. In the second sentence, he drives carefully. Drives is a verb, so carefully is an adverb, describing how he drives. You'll see the most common way to make an adverb is to put ly on the end of an adjective. That is the most common way, but there are many irregular adverbs that don't follow the same pattern. But usually we can just add ly to an adjective to make the adverb. Here is another example, but this one is irregular. She is a good pianist. So good is the adjective describing the noun pianist. She plays the piano well. Well is the adverb related to good. You'll notice that I've got she plays the piano well. Plays is the verb. The piano is the object. Do not separate the verb from the object. Okay, don't put she plays well the piano. This is a very typical mistake. We don't like to separate the verb and the object. So she plays the piano as a verb phrase. She plays the piano well. Here is another example. I am a very bad singer. So bad is the adjective. Badly is the adverb. I am a very bad singer. I sing very badly. Also, you'll notice in these sentences, I've introduced the word very. Very is also an adverb. So you can see in the first sentence, I am a very bad singer. We have the adjective bad, but we also have the adverb, which is changing the adjective. Okay? So as we said in the introduction, in the definition there, they can modify not only verbs but also adjectives and other adverbs. So you can see I am a bad singer or I am a very bad singer. And in the second sentence we have I sing badly. We've got the adverb badly, but we've also got very, another adverb which is modifying badly. I am a very bad singer. I sing very badly. Let's look at some comparatives and superlatives. To begin with, we'll go through the comparatives and superlatives for the adjectives. Dave is a strong swimmer. There's the adjective strong. To make the comparative, we have Jane is a stronger swimmer. She is a stronger swimmer than Dave. Then we have the superlative. Bill is the strongest swimmer. So this is the usual way to make comparatives and superlatives. When we have an adjective of only one syllable, we can add er to make the comparative, or we can add est to make the superlative. Strong, stronger, the strongest. but these are all when we use an adjective with one syllable. Sometimes if we've got an adjective with two syllables that ends in a Y, we can say Dave had a happy childhood. Jane had a happier childhood. You'll see how we changed the Y to I. Bill had the happiest childhood. So these are adjectives with two syllables that end in Y, like happy or lucky or ugly. Happy, happier, the happiest. Now sometimes we have adjectives with more than two syllables, like this expensive, you'll see has three syllables. So what can we do with this one? Dave bought an expensive car. Jane bought a more expensive car. So the comparative we make by adding more. And then Bill bought the most expensive car. That is the superlative. So when we've got these longer adjectives, we add more and the most to make comparatives and superlatives. Now let's look at the comparatives and superlatives for adverbs. Now these are a little bit complicated because the comparative and superlative forms are disappearing quickly. Now this is an adverb. Dave speaks slowly. Slowly is the adverb describing the verb speak. The comparative is Jane speaks more slowly. Now some people use the comparative adjective slower and say Jane speaks slower. It's not really correct, but it's very common. It should be more slowly. And definitely not slowlier, okay? Slowlier doesn't exist at all. People try to use comparative adverbs like slowlier and quicklier, but they don't really exist. So the correct form is Jane speaks more slowly, but you will hear people say Jane speaks slower. And with the superlative, Bill speaks the most slowly. Now this seems to be quite a formal way of speaking. I think most people now use the superlative adjective form and say Bill speaks the slowest. I think that's the most common way of speaking these days. But technically, if you're doing an exam or using formal writing, use more slowly and the most slowly. But if you're in the street with your friends, or if you're watching a TV series, you'll probably hear people say Jane speaks slower and Bill speaks the slowest. Dave is a good singer. Dave sings well. So as we've seen, well is the adverb form and good is the adjective form. Now when we make comparatives and superlatives, it gets a bit more simple. Jane is a better singer. Jane sings better. So the adverb form is the same as the adjective form when we're using comparatives. And in the superlative, Bill is the best singer. Bill sings the best. Or Bill sings best. Sometimes we remove the. So you see the comparative and superlative forms with better and the best remain the same. Here's another one that's even more simple for you. When we use fast, there is no difference between adjective and adverb. It's a fast car, it goes fast. This faster car goes faster, and the fastest car goes the fastest. So there's no difference at all between adjectives and adverbs when we use fast. Now let's look at the position of adverbs. To begin with, we'll look at the adverbs of frequency. These are adverbs such as frequently, often, sometimes, occasionally, which tell you how frequently something happens. For example, I am often late. I am sometimes on time. I rarely watch TV. I have always liked fish. Now, the thing you have to notice with the position of adverbs of frequency, when we have the verb to be, the adverb comes after. I am often. I am sometimes. With other verbs, the adverb goes in front of the verb, or more accurately, in front of the main verb. I rarely watch. I have always liked. So have is an auxiliary verb here. So the adverb of frequency goes before the main verb like. I have always liked fish. Okay? So this is the most common place to see the adverb of frequency. I've summarized in these sentences. They usually go before the verb. Remember this phrase, they usually go. Sometimes we put them at the beginning. We also put them at the end occasionally. But usually they go before the main verb. Remember, they usually go. They usually go. So the first sentence is the most common one, okay? Now, when we are using longer time phrases, they usually go at the beginning or the end. For example, on Friday night. On Friday night, we go to the cinema. I could say we go to the cinema on Friday night. But these longer time phrases, you'll see these are not phrases of frequency. They are referring to specific times rather than sometimes, occasionally, usually, etc. These are specific times mentioned, and they usually go at the beginning or at the end of the sentence. So on Friday night, we go to the cinema, or we go to the cinema on Friday night. She plays tennis at the weekend, or at the weekend she plays tennis. But you'll notice again, she plays tennis. Don't separate play and tennis. They always have to go together. She plays tennis at the weekend. At the weekend she plays tennis. Now let's look at adverbs of place and time. He lived in Paris for 3 years. So you see we've got two adverb phrases here. One is in Paris. The other adverb phrase is for 3 years. This is also called a prepositional phrase. In Paris for 3 years, because they begin with prepositions, but they are a type of adverbial. So he lived in Paris for 3 years. Now the place always goes in front of the time. You cannot say he lived for 3 years in Paris. Well, you can say it if you want to, but the normal way is to put the place in front of the time. We often went to the beach at the weekend. So you can see to the beach goes before at the weekend. I put in an adverb of frequency as well. You see that the adverb of frequency is before the main verb again. We often went to the beach at the weekend. On Saturday, we had a meal in a restaurant. In this one, I've put on Saturday at the beginning. I could put it at the end. We had a meal in a restaurant on Saturday. But again, we would have in the restaurant in front of on Saturday. And also, we had a meal. You'll see, again, I'm not separating had with its object, a meal. Had a meal have to stay together. Now let's look at some adverbs of manner. They walked slowly across the road. Now this is the most common place to put the adverb of manner after the verb. They walked slowly across the road. You may see it in this position. They slowly walked across the road. Now this can only happen when you've got the adverb that ends in ly. So they walked slowly across the road. They slowly walked across the road. They walked quickly. They quickly walked. But if I said they walked fast, I could not say they fast walked. Okay? We only move the position of the adverb in front of the verb when it is one of these adverbs that end in ly. So they walked slowly across the road is the most common position for this adverb, though you may see they slowly walked. Now let's put the adverbs of manner, place and time together in a sentence, and you'll see that they usually occur in this order: manner, place, time. She worked quietly in her office all afternoon. Quietly is the manner, in her office is the place, all afternoon is the time. As quietly is an ly adverb, we could put it in front of work if we wanted to. She quietly worked in her office all afternoon. As in this sentence, they carefully read the book. I put this adverb in front of the verb here. You could say they read the book carefully. But again, don't separate the verb read and the object the book. They have to stay together. On Fridays, John drank beer alone in the pub. Now, in this one, I put on Fridays at the beginning. As I showed you earlier, sometimes we put these phrases of time at the beginning instead of at the end. We have John drank beer. Again, don't separate drank beer. Alone is the manner. In the pub is the place. And then if we wanted to, we could put the time after in the pub. Alone in the pub on Fridays. But alone cannot go in front of the verb because alone does not end in ly. Okay? We can do it with quietly and carefully, but we can't move alone. That would have to go after. On Fridays, John drank beer alone in the pub. And finally, we're going to look at adverbs of opinion. Adverbs of opinion always go at the beginning. And these are adverbs that give your opinion about the rest of the sentence. So, it didn't rain on Saturday. Now, your opinion is that you were quite lucky. So you can say, luckily, it didn't rain on Saturday. Okay? So this always goes at the beginning, separated by a comma. Unsurprisingly, I found him in the bar. Amazingly, he has never seen Star Wars. You'll see that I cannot separate the verbs from the object here. Found him, seen Star Wars. There is never there between the auxiliary verb and the main verb again. Amazingly, he has never seen Star Wars. So that is what adverbs are. It looked complicated at the beginning, but I hope now that you can see that adverbs are words that modify verbs, adjectives or other adverbs, or entire sentences. They provide additional information about how, when or where something happens. Okay, I hope that made it a little bit simpler for you. And if you enjoyed that, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment. I'm always willing to answer your questions if you write them in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video.